Thanks for staying up later. My name is Jeff Cesario. I'm filling in for Bob Costas, who is actually off rehearsing this week to take over the Marla Maples role in the Will Rogers Follies. My guest this evening is a fantastic stand-up comedian, one of my favorites. He may be the next guy in line to translate that stand-up success into sitcom stardom. He's the quintessential New Yorker. He's the kind of guy who's disappointed when he finds out it's only a car backfiring. John Mendoza, tonight on Later.
Flew in from New York yesterday. The crime there was getting incredible. I was getting on the plane, I looked into the cockpit, and around the steering wheel they had the club. You want to meet stupid people? Lock your keys in your car. People walk up to you and ask you the stupidest things on the face of the earth. So how'd you do it? I snuck out the exhaust.
You are on the cusp of stardom here. I mean, you've got your own show, the second half.
Right.
Coming this fall on NBC. Yeah. We'll talk about that later. You made your mark as a stand-up.
Yes.
For how long have you been doing stand-up?
15 years? 14 years, something like that, 79. Yeah, I started in New York in 79.
What makes a guy do stand-up? I mean, you know, I often think of, what jobs does a guy have where he's lying in bed at night going, man, you know, on the whole, I'd rather be naked in front of a crowd getting heckled, you know?
Actually, I worked for Seagram's. I was working in the liquor room at Seagram's, in the sample room, before I did this.
Doing what?
Sampling. Sampling, yeah.
The perfect criterion for comedy.
Oh, I was, it was an interesting job. I had an office with like $1 million worth of booze in it. And Seagram's would have these functions in town and stuff like that. And I would put all this liquor together, wine and whatever they had and stuff like that. And I was the guy that shipped it out to these functions and stuff like that. And I used to practice in the room. I was practicing for that, and there was another guy I was working with, and he was a bass player. So you would hear this guy in the back going boom, 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 and me going, so where are you from? What do you do? I mean,
must have looked great on the security cameras.
Oh, they had a riot. It was like watching two guys in therapy. I mean, it was really, really strange. But going to the comedy clubs, because the comic strip had just opened up, and
an institution in New York, the Comic Strip and Catch, probably the two biggest clubs here.
And the Improv, yeah. And I went to, Freddie Prinze was a friend of mine that I met a long time ago, and I went to a comedy club one night, and he says, come on, get up there and do it, get up there and do it. And I, no way, man, you gotta be out of your mind. And I was watching Brenner one night, and I went, oh, now I can do that. You know, and not insulting David in a way, but I mean, it looked so comfortable, and he was so relaxed at doing it.
He really is himself.
Yeah.
On stage, and that's the comfort zone where you can make that final leap.
Yeah, and that's probably what's happened in comedy is we've made it look so comfortable on stage and stuff like that. A lot of people went, oh, I want to do that too. You ever sit on a couch watching TV and all of a sudden realize you've left the remote on top of the TV? And wish you had a remote to get that remote? That's what kids are good for. Give me the damn remote, will you? I was sitting on the couch the other day, had the wrong remote in my hand, so for 2 hours I watched the garage door open and close. One time I got really, really frightened was when I had like 2 weeks. And I remember getting ready to go do the show, and I'd just come out of the shower, and I was sitting there thinking to myself, are you this pathetic that you got to go stand in front of 5 million people to tell you how good you are in life? And then you stand in front of the camera and you go, yeah.
But you're okay with the yeah.
Yeah,
go,
oh yeah.
Hey, this is who I am.
When I was doing the pilot, I'd gotten there at like 5:30 in the morning, and we were rewriting the pilot and trying to make changes and stuff like that, and I was so physically exhausted. I couldn't stand up. And we had the network run through at 9 o'clock at night, and it was like Warren Littlefield and all of these guys sitting there. And I remember sitting there thinking to myself, you've got to figure out some way mentally to get yourself through this. And I was sitting there, could not stand up. And I thought to myself, there's a guy in the Jersey Turnpike right now saying to someone, we don't take pennies.
And that pulled you through?
That pulled me through. It was every time I got really tired, I thought to myself, we don't take pennies. And I mean, here I am, I'm doing exactly what I want to do. I'm telling jokes, and I'm having fun at it, and I'm making a couple of bucks at the same time. How many people here are ugly? See, I don't think ugly people know they're ugly. I was at a party with a friend the other night. He says, look at that chick over there. She's a pig. I said, so are you. Go over and say hello. Just don't have any kids. You ever see an ugly kid, you just look at it, you go, you better learn to fight.
Your attitude, to me, is best summarized in a line you do on CPR.
Oh, yeah. A New Yorker getting...
We all know what normal CPR is, isn't it? But a New Yorker CPR?
New Yorker giving mouth-to-mouth resuscitation. Get up before you die.
I love that.
Well, you know, in the clubs, I say another word in the middle of that thing. And I remember doing a letter, I think it was my second Letterman spot, and I bent over and did the word. I didn't do it, and I said to myself, did you just curse? And as I looked up, no one was running towards me, so I know I didn't curse.
You figured you did it okay.
Yeah.
That attitude is so you to me, and yet you don't beat that New York thing to death in your act. You just take that attitude and subtly weave that sort of
attitude and
cynical attitude through the rest of your act. How did you find your voice? Working the clubs here?
It was,
the road?
yeah. Well, actually, it started here in New York, and I remember Keenan Waynes and I started out together, and he used to laugh at me because I could never make eye contact with an audience, and I still can't. To me, if, you know, you see an audience member, someone out there not laughing, I freak. I am completely lost. I was doing the Crosby a couple of weeks ago, and...
Wait a second, the golf tournament?
Yeah, the golf tournament. Yeah.
See, you're in it now, man.
Oh, I'm having
You're
a blast.
in showbiz now. You got your own show. I was doing the Crosby.
The Crosby, yeah. I played in it last year also, which was a lot of fun. And actually, last year was really cool because, I mean, growing up as a sports fanatic is just absolutely fun to do these things. I mean, it is pure stargazing for me. And I'm sitting there having dinner one night at a table with Julius Erving, John Havlicek, and Bob Cousy. Shoot me.
Man.
Shoot me. But I have accomplished everything I've wanted to do. And I was talking to Cousy about, you know, when I was a kid, he was my idol. He was the guy I always wanted to be. And I said, you know, if I could, I used to drag my foot the way he used to and stuff like that. And he said to me, you know, I always wanted to be a comedian.
It's amazing how that flips around.
Yeah.
People can't believe. I had Lou Brock do the same thing to me. Bob Gibson.
Yeah. Yeah.
He said, no, what you do is hard. And I'm like,
yeah.
No, you're Bob Gibson. You don't understand.
You don't understand, yeah. You know, I mean, anyone can throw a ball at 90 miles an hour. Yeah, right.
Now, were you influenced by, who are your comedy influences?
Probably the two biggest ones is Newhart and Pryor. I mean, I think Pryor's first stand-up special is probably the greatest thing. I mean, that is the thing that should be put into the time capsule.
Boy, no kidding, huh?
I mean,
Seamless.
When he makes like he's seen that deer, I mean, it is... I mean, you believe he's that deer drinking that water. I mean, when he's having, you know, the heart attack, I mean, it is, I mean, you just howl. I mean, uncontrollable laughter.
That may be the truest test of whether you're a real comic or not, is if that was part of your inspiration. Because I know more comics who list that as one of the chief reasons they got into comedy. It's such a seamless performance.
You know, the interesting thing about that, it's almost like watching, I remember as a kid, I would watch a basketball game or a baseball game or something like that, and then you would try and go out on the court and duplicate those moves. And it's the same thing. You watch the Pryor thing, and the next night you find yourself on stage strutting and going, I really look stupid right now. I'm not Richard Pryor. And it was, you know, those were probably the two. But before, when you asked me about doing stand-up, when I was doing the Crosby, there's like 14,000 people at Wake Forest University out there. And I'm between Glenn Campbell and Charlie Pride. And, yeah, this attitude and those two guys. Two. Yeah. But I'm standing there, and there's 14,000 people out there, and I'm doing my act, and it's going really, really good. And all of a sudden, a guy in a red shirt, about 40 rows up, gets up to go to the bathroom. And I'm going, where's he going? I'm losing the room.
At a golf tournament.
Yeah, at a golf tournament. I'm losing the room in front of
That's comic instincts, and that's from the road.
Yeah.
I mean, there's no doubt that to get to the point where you're at as a stand-up, to get to a point where you can have a network say, let's build a show around this guy. You paid some serious dues on the road, man. We both worked the road, and it's insane out there. I
had a night, and one of my favorite nights was in Savannah, Georgia. And it was a god-awful gig. And they put you up in this condo, and the Roaches actually bought you your towel. I mean, it was one of those
That friendly, huh?
Yeah, they were really, that Southern hospitality kind of thing, you know. We're here, but we'll help you out a little bit. And this, the entire staff, it was Labor Day, and the entire staff decided that they hated this owner, and they weren't going to show up. So, and the guy, it was Labor Day, so the guy had a full house, and he had a false leg, so he couldn't walk around. So I was bartending, and he was doing some of the waitering. And I would have to go up and do my act, and while I'm doing my act, someone would yell, "I need another beer here," and I'd run off stage, and I'd still do my act, and run over there, get the guy a beer, and come over here, okay, it's $3.50, and then run back up on stage. And yeah, nights like that, nights showing up in Tampa, Florida, in a house where 2 club owners just had a fight, and 1 club owner took everything out of the house.
Yeah, that's worse than a divorce.
Oh, yeah.
When when co-owners of a nightclub have a fight.
I was in the shower, I'll never forget this night. I mean, the guy called me from Atlanta, we'll pick you up, you know, in Tampa when you get here. Call up from Atlanta, I sat in the airport for 3 hours. And they kept calling this guy, "My wife's on her way back, my wife is on her way back." And and the guy finally showed up, he sent someone else. I show up at this house, Jeff, there was nada in this house. Zippo. I remember taking a shower. I had to go to the 7-Eleven, and I got like a roll of toilet paper, and some soap, and I am dabbing myself with toilet paper, going to myself. You know,
Looks
I
like you
could be on the freeway right now going, "We take pennies."
Exactly.
You know, anything at all. I mean, oh yeah, they were hell nights, but I mean, all in all, I mean, you know, comics talk about, oh, how bad it was and stuff like that, but you know what? I was doing exactly what I wanted to do.
My sister didn't have such a good day today. My sister's asthmatic. In the middle of an asthma attack, she got an obscene phone call. Guy said, "Did I call you or did you call me?"
You started comedy quite late. I believe 62 you just
62,
mumbled.
I was. I was going for the seniors tour of comedy.
What were you, late 20s?
I was like 28, somewhere around there, 27, 28, something like that.
Advantages, disadvantages of coming to it that late?
I think a lot of advantages. I think I had things to do and things to talk about, as opposed to being 17 years old and walking out and going, so I was in school the other day. I mean, even I remember when Eddie Murphy came into New York when we first started. He had absolutely nothing to talk about. All he did was do impressions of what he'd heard off of Richard Pryor's albums and Bob and Bill Cosby and people like that. And I mean, I had some anger. I had developed some anger by that point.
You had a head of steam built up.
Oh yeah, I had a lot to talk about. And so I think starting later was a much better advantage.
Having come to it roughly the same time I started late myself, the disadvantage is, you know, you're 29.
Yeah.
You move out to L.A. and people go, "You're 30, man. We don't need you."
You know, actually, it was interesting. I moved out at a bad time. I didn't know it, but I was too old to play, you know, the best friend, and I was too young to play the wacky uncle.
The answer is you get your own show.
You hang out, yeah. But I mean, you talk about quitting. I mean, it gets very frustrating when you're out there for, you know, 2, 3, 4 years and you're not getting anything. I mean, fortunately, I moved out there for the golf and not for the business.
You got your priorities, and that's true.
Oh, yeah.
Did you think about quitting?
Yeah.
When?
Oh, it expands itself. At the beginning, it's every 6 months.
Oh, you got a timetable worked out for quitting.
Yeah, and then it becomes every 9 months, and then it's once a year, and then it goes a little bit further. I actually remember one time I was so depressed. I was going to get out of business. I had just moved out to L.A. All of a sudden, I thought I was going to get something, and it didn't work out. And I remember sitting there going through the newspaper, and I'm reading the newspaper, looking for a job. And my daughter walked over to the table, and she says, "What are you doing?" I said, "I'm looking for a job." And she said, "What could you do?" Closed the newspaper and went, "Okay, I'm done." I think you think about it all the time.
What did your daughter say about your working stand-up, some of the tougher times?
Well, I actually said to her mother, she said, "I really feel bad for my dad because he works nights, and he must be really poor." She equated it sort of like, you know, being a night janitor in a building or something like that. And at the time, she was right. I remember the first year I did stand-up, I made $400. I mean, in the clubs in New York, you made $2 on weeknights and $5 on weekends.
And that was big dough.
Oh, that was big dough. I was very fortunate. My friend owned an apartment building, and I lived in a basement apartment there, and it was like ice cold, freezing, and that's July. I mean, it was just wicked. And fortunately, a friend of mine and my other friend owned a kosher deli, so I used to work for him, you know, in trade, you know, for food and stuff like that.
Boy, that's motivation. You know, when it boils down to that, that again, an advantage of the age. It boils down to that, and you're 28, 29, and you're just going, no, this is really what I want to do, or I wouldn't be living in the basement sucking down leftover pastrami.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it was a conscious effort, and you know, people would go, "Why are you doing this?" I remember when I quit my job, I was working at Seagram's, and the guys I was working for said to me, "Why, you know, what are you, crazy? Do you know what your odds of being successful are?" And I said, "Do you know my odds of being successful are if I stay here? You know, at least I don't want to, you know, 40, 50 years old, which I've hit." It just dawned on me. I don't want to look back and go, you know, I wish I became a stand-up comic. I mean, at 27, 28 years old, if you decide to quit, I mean, you're still healthy enough, you know, to try and do something else in your life. But I mean, you're 40 years old. I mean, you see them, you know, some of these guys that come out and try and do stand-up comedy. They won lawyer night at, you know, Stand Up New York here or something like that, and they're going, "Wow, I'm going to be a comic now." Man, I would not want to be starting now under no circumstances.
It's awfully nice to be on the Tonight Show and look back.
Yes.
And just, you know, feel the dues you've paid and know you're sitting there, especially you and I both had the pleasure of doing it when Johnny was still there.
Yeah, yeah, that was, I remember from my first Tonight Show spot, you talk about nervous. Man, I remember I went to go buy, I wanted a pink linen shirt to go with the suit I had, and I was walking around the Beverly Center and going from store to store, and I finally walked out of one store, and my wife...
Single-minded.
Yeah,
pink linen
just pink linen shirt. That's all I could get in my mind was I knew, because they said don't wear white, just don't wear white. So I went and got this, I knew, okay, pink will do. And so I walked out of one store, and my wife said to me, she says, why didn't you buy that shirt? That's exactly what you wanted. And I said, no, you know, I don't think it was really linen. It was $11. And she went, "You dyslexic fool, it was 110. Oh, okay. But,
well, now you're big enough, successful enough.
Man, now
you can wear white on TV.
I can wear, yeah.
You are beaming in white this evening.
It was either iron something or put this on. This was already ironed.
Your last appearance with Johnny on The Tonight Show was special. You invoked a bit of the past.
Well, it was special because, I mean, you knew that it was, always doing The Tonight Show with Johnny was a lot of fun because it was like performing for a major person in your family. I mean, we grew up watching and stuff like that. I mean, that's, I think, what made it so special.
We met years ago. I used to be your chauffeur.
You what?
I used to be your chauffeur. When you were in New York doing The Tonight Show that time?
Yeah.
And you, at nighttime, you go out to Westbury Theater, you do Westbury Theater. 7 o'clock in the morning, you get up, you play tennis down on 26th Street. I drive you down there, bring you back up to 5th Avenue, and in the afternoon, drive you to the show. Yeah.
You ever come out and watch me work at Westbury?
Yes, I did.
Yeah.
Yes, it was a lot of fun. Maybe you don't recognize it. How's this?
John, how are you? Good to see you. Good to see you. I never forget it back.
It was great. I mean, you know, I could be collecting pennies.
Do you draw on your real life in the show? You play a sports writer. Obviously, a tremendous interest in sports is going to come through here. You don't have to force that at all.
No. It isn't really far from my life. Actually, a friend of mine, we were sitting out in the hallway before, and we were talking about the show and stuff like that. And I have jars of pennies around my house, and quarters and dimes and stuff like that, whatever change I have and stuff like that. So we incorporated that into the show. I mean, I'll pay for stuff. You know, while I'm waiting for the food to come, I'll sit there and I'll get all the quarters together and stuff like that, and that's how I get rid of it. Yeah, it sounds really misery, but it's really not. It's just, I mean, it's easy to deal with.
That's the only way to do it, though, really.
Yeah.
Is to build that show, you know, around your quirks and your idiosyncrasies and let you react.
Yeah, someone asked me recently, why do comics, their shows kind of work? We've been producing our shows for 15 years. I mean, as an actor, you have to learn a character and you have to learn this and that. I mean, if you don't know who Jeff Cesario is on stage, you can't sell what you have to sell. You know, I mean, you really have to know who you are up there as a stand-up. And if you don't, I mean, that's the ones that become successful and the ones that really get to know who they are.
Okay, I have you confirmed. Chicago to Miami. Oh, they didn't get you a seat assignment.
Can't you do that?
Sure. Window or aisle?
Aisle.
What
What are you, writing a letter to your mother?
I'm almost done.
What'd you do, fall asleep?
This has got to be an interesting time.
Mm-hmm.
You know the vagaries of the business as well as anybody.
Mm-hmm.
You've been at it a long time. You've got a good product,
Mm-hmm.
but sometimes it doesn't matter.
Right.
You're in a position where next year, at this time, you could be Seinfeld,
Mm-hmm.
could be Jackie Thomas. You're not sure.
Yeah.
You could be here, you could be gone. How does that make you feel?
I'll deal with that. You know, I remember about 2 weeks before the show was getting picked up, I said to my wife, I said, you know, in about 2 weeks, I am either going to be the happiest person on the face of the earth, or I'm going to hit a state of depression that I have no idea where it's going to go. At this point in the game, the only thing I can do is just put together, you know, what I think is really, really good. I don't know. I guess I'll deal with it. I deal with everything when it hits me in the face. I think I'll be around for a while. I think the show will be really good. I got some real strong people around me, not only just actors, but writers and stuff like that. And I think I'll be around for a long time.
One-stop Hurricane Headquarters.
There you go. Thank you, John Mendoza.
Thank you, sir.
His show this fall on NBC, it's called The Second Half. Good luck.
Thank you.
You deserve it.
Thank you.
And Bob will be back next week. We'll see you later. Bye.